So what is your worst nightmare? I think we all have one. I definitely have one. Today's a very difficult day for me. Today is my son's birthday, but he's no longer with us on this earth. I deal with trying to understand why he's gone. I also know that I feel that his spirit is often with me. But my biggest nightmare is the day he died. And I think we all have a nightmare in our lives. And if we haven't had that worst nightmare, someday it'll probably come. Because as my dad used to say, bad things happen to good people to keep us humble. And I guess that's true. My son committed suicide several years ago. He was a teenager. And my worst nightmare is not when it happened. My worst nightmare is the moments before it happened. Because I know if I had just known what he was going to do, I could have stopped it. And that's the tough part. I remember seeing him walk through the hallway. It was early in the morning, around 6 a.m. And I saw him turn on the bathroom light, and the light flashed across the hallway against the wall. And then when he closed the door, it went to dark. And then just seconds later, at 6:02 a.m., I know the exact time, the gun went off. And that's my nightmare, because I could have stopped it. I think. I didn't know he had a gun. So how would I know? So, yes, we all have a nightmare. We live nightmares. We just don't dream them. We live them. And so when I had to deal with my nightmare of my son's death, and you always ask that question, what if, what if, what if? What if I had gotten out of bed and walked into the hallway and just said, good morning. What can I do for you today? You ready to go to school? Getting ready to go? But no, instead I just thought, well, he's getting ready to go take his shower. I'll leave him alone. So I have to live with that, and that's my nightmare. Many of us have nightmares like that, something bad that's happened in life, and we just have to ask ourselves, what if? What if? What if I had done something differently? What if I had said something? But you know what? What ifs don't change anything. They don't change a thing. We just learn to live with it and go on. We do bury the pain into the back of our minds, because believe me, if you don't bury it, you won't be able to live with it. So I deal with that. But today is my son's birthday, and that's the reminder that he's not here anymore. I don't get to live that special moment with him of, blowing out candles on a cake, opening presents, and just celebrating another year. The last year I had with him, the last birthday I had with him, will be the last birthday that I celebrated with him. And that is something so many of us take for granted. Do not, don't do that. Don't let that happen to you. Celebrate every chance you get. Hold on to pictures, videos, because it may be all you have left in the future. We have, good morning, by the way. We all have been watching this horrible situation with the Guthrie family and their missing 84-year-old mother who was abducted for God knows why. And I assume if they've never had a nightmare in their lives, this one's it. Everybody has a nightmare sooner or later, unfortunately. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go on today. I'm going to go live, and I'm going to talk about nightmares. I'm going to talk about my nightmare. I've been living with it for years. And unfortunately, days like today, birthdays of the loved one who died so tragically and senselessly, is a reminder of what I've lost and what I will never get back. Now, it's true, I do believe in spirits getting messages to us. And he, I think, sent several. And, I was going through a difficult divorce, and unfortunately, children get caught into those things. And long story short, I kept praying every day before he died for God to open his eyes and let him see the truth. And the morning he died, when we got into that bathroom, when we broke down the door and we broke down the door to get into that room, my oldest son had to kick the door open. There he was, lying in a pool of blood with his beautiful blue eyes, just staring. I knew he was gone. And I've often said when I looked into those pretty blue eyes, I saw God. If I didn't believe in God before then, when I saw those eyes, I believed in God. And a couple of months later, I was going to church. And after church, every Sunday, I would go. And I would go across the hallway from the main sanctuary. And I would get on my knees on a kneeling bench. And I would just pray. And one day, this woman walked in. I never met her in my life. Walked in while I was praying, and she said, I see the heartache and the pain in your eyes. And she said, I can talk to the dead, and I've talked to your son. And I thought, oh, great, here we go. This woman's crazy. And she said something that blew me away. She said, I have a message from your son, and he wants you to know that the minute he died, his eyes were opened, and he could see the truth. Wow. That was my prayer for months. God, open his eyes and let him see the truth. And only God knew that prayer. How did he know the minute he died, when I was looking into his eyes, those fixed, pretty blue eyes? How did he know that was my prayer for months? His eyes were opened and he saw the truth. He saw a mother's love. He saw a mother's pain. He saw a mother who covered him up with a towel to keep him warm. He saw what mommies do. So that's my nightmare. And I'm sure many people have nightmares, living nightmares, not those that we just dream, but nightmares that happen in real time, in real life. And we learn how to live with those. My son's suicide brought me closer to God. I was already on my way there. I was actually converting at that time to Catholicism, and I just felt this need to go to church all the time. And I think that was maybe God's way of preparing me for what was going to happen. And so that morning, it's like I said, I saw those beautiful angelic eyes. And I saw peace like I've never seen in my life. And I knew then that my child was with God. He was with God. Now, the irony is, a few weeks later, my nephew was murdered. But they put him on life support and was trying to save him. And I just kept praying to my son, help your cousin. Let him be okay. Don't let anything happen to him, and just let him get well. And all of a sudden this voice came to my head and said, he's all right, Mom. I'm taking care of him. It's okay, Mom. I called my sister in ICU. Said, don't unplug that machine. He's going to be all right. I just got a message from my Michael, my son, and he said, Mom, Rob's going to be okay. I'm taking care of him. Well, my mother answered the phone instead of my sister. And Mom said, well, honey, Michael's right. Rob is okay because he just passed. So my mom said, you know what? He's with Michael, and your Michael's taking care of his cousin. Wow. That was not the message I thought I got, from him. I thought he was saying he's going to be okay. He's going to live again. The message I was getting is, no, Mom, he's here with me, and I'm taking care of him here. So sometimes we don't always get the message we want, but it is the message that is. It is the reality. So it's like I said, we all have a nightmare. We all have something that, keeps us awake at night. We all have a bad dream that's real. It's not just a dream. And it's how we choose to deal with it is what's important. I could have just gone when my son died like that, such a tragic death. I could have gone and hidden and never come out again. And the truth is, I did do that for several weeks. In fact, the first thing I saw when the gun went off was a digital clock that said 6:02 a.m. And forever, I could not look at a clock for fear of seeing 6:02 a.m. So I think that's one thing also, a message that I could give. If you know someone who's considering taking their own lives, let them know that they're not only hurting themselves, they're hurting those who they leave behind. They're breaking them. And like today, I get up and realize it's his birthday and realize, oh man, how am I going to get through this day? And then I start remembering when he was born. I was tiny little girl. I weighed 110 pounds and he weighed 9. And I always said he came in like a lion, went out like a lamb, because that's the month of March, right? So whatever your nightmare is, try to learn how to live with it and make something good come out of it, because sooner or later we're all going to have that nightmare. I do want to say hello to everyone who's joining me. I apologize for not recognizing you one by one. Don't have my glasses on for one thing, and I can't see. And secondly, I didn't want to lose my train of thought, because this is very important when we talk about life and death and nightmares. We all have a bad dream. Not every now and then we're going to have a bad dream, but a nightmare, when they come along in real life, that's the worst dream you will ever have. And those are the dreams you don't want to come true. So I will get ready to sign off here, because I'm going to go to church. I think I need to go to church on my son's birthday. But I do want you to know that there are people out there right now desperate for help, desperate for someone to reach out and say, I'm here. I will listen to you. And believe me, if you don't believe in God, just look into somebody's peaceful eyes someday when they're in pain. Unfortunately for me, it was when my son was dead. But you will see God, because God is in all of us, one way or another. So God's peace be with you. I say this every day, and I'll say it today. God's peace be with you, and remember, as Christ taught us, love one another as I have loved you. And remember to do unto others as you would have them do unto yourselves. Because that's the way we can all live in peace. And that's the way we can all maybe avoid a few nightmares. It's not about war, it's all about peace. It's about love. And that's what my Christ, and I guess I am a Christian, that's what my Christ is all about. So God be with you and give you peace. And until tomorrow, I'll try to get back on here tomorrow, because today's going to be a tough day. But I'll try to be back on here tomorrow after the birthday of my deceased son is over. I couldn't say that word forever. I couldn't say the dead word. I called it the D word. I couldn't say die, dead, deceased. So I would say past. So I can now say it after many years. But I hope that you have a grand day today. I hope you have a happy day today. And I pray that God walks with you and gives you all the peace in the world. So until then, God bless you all. And I will see you, hopefully, tomorrow, if it's God's will. Have a great Sunday.